Ta-da-da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. I tell you, I am a mess, and at the same time, right? A little bit. I don't know how I could say this, but frazzled in the moment. Just frazzled, and I said, okay, that's it. I'm doing my taxes right now. And I never have a problem doing my taxes, but because I made a little bit more money last year, it's pulling me out of some of those brackets that I've been sitting well in that has allowed me to have a little bit of a tax break. Income tax return. I've been planning on using my refund this year to get some dental work done. Just to find that working on my taxes today, come to realize I am not getting a refund for the first time in my life. I've made too much money to fit myself into some of those brackets that have served me. It is what it is. And I'm going to take it as a good sign. But it does kind of throw a wrench into those plans, right? Into those goals. And that's the word that we have this week. We've been working on it for a couple of days now. We're just going to let my cat finish. I wouldn't want to interrupt her. And she does it purposely, I think. I really think she does. Or maybe that's the test. Maybe that's the few moments that I've been at, few hours that I've been having, right? But I'm saying I'm cutting it right now, right? We're coming into my life and it is late and it wasn't my intent. I intended in coming in live this afternoon, but it's how my day's been going. And I'm going to run with that day. I'm going to run with the way it's worked out. I'm going to come back into my income tax return tomorrow. It's on file. Come back into it tomorrow with a fresh look, a more optimistic, right? But I should feel optimistic that I've started pulling myself out of those difficult times that I had, to be able to actually contribute money rather than take those resources and let the government support me, which I have done on many occasions throughout my life. Not my intent, but again, we do find ourselves in circumstances at times. It wasn't what I was going to say, circumstances. I was looking for a word in those blocks, right? In those blocks, just like in my income tax return, finding myself slotted very well, sitting very comfortable in those little deductibles that I'm able to give myself. And also at the same time, it is a concern because being in a higher bracket, it makes it so I might come out of that little box where I was getting those carbon tax rebates and stuff, right? Maybe I made a mistake. I don't think so, but like I said, I'm cutting this conversation off because I got too deep into the numbers game today. I really, really do enjoy doing my own income tax return. It's something that I learned to do out of necessity, right? That necessity to hold on to my money and not allow somebody else to do it for me and for me to pay them to do it for me, that I would learn to do it myself. But at the same time, right, paying somebody might have found me a few deductions, right? Even my medical expenses and getting my new glasses, that didn't help me out. And look at, I'm still blabbing away at it, right? That's how long it takes me to unwire the things that frazzle me up, that trip me up. I am no different than anybody else like that. When I get into something and it doesn't go my way, right? I have a tendency to try to make it fit, right? Squeeze it in there, take some shortcuts, chop some ends off, right? And sometimes it's even in that buyer in the lesser quality, right? Oh, instead of getting that brand name, let's get this no name brand. It's the same size, but it's $2 cheaper. And for what I have learned in the past few years, it's a truth. You get what you pay for, right? And if you want to cut those corners in order, right, to make something a little bit easier, I'm not going to cheat my taxes. I know that. I'm going to do this honestly. I'm going to figure this out. Maybe I've missed something, but like I said, that's the end of that conversation, right? I'm just a little bit I'm not concerned about it because I'll figure it out one way or another, the dental. But when you have your heart set, when you make these goals and these plans, and you think in the next month you're going to be working on these things, and right, to have those wrenches thrown in. But that's all in the preparation. And that was me living in the future, not living in the present, right? And when we live in the future, we're taking that chance of being disappointed, right? Because we can anticipate, we can invest our time, our money to have it all fall apart, right? It's just an income tax return. Okay, you guys, we are talking about goals this week, and yesterday before I left that I said that maybe we would talk a little bit in the manner of the choices that we make in our lives as goals. And goal setting being very something new to me, and it was something that I stumbled onto out of necessity, out of that want and need to save my brand. And I worked really hard at trying to be good at something that I was not being very good at, right? It was difficult. I was in my 50s. I was in my late 50s when I started on YouTube. Thought I was going to be a YouTube superstar, but at the same time, recognizing that I was getting mature, right? And even though I still felt like I was 20, even though I was still adventuring like I was 20, I had to recognize at some point that I would have to slow it down a little bit. But because I was loving what I was doing so much, and because I had already started taking in some lessons that were getting me to the point where I could believe that I could pull myself out of the life that I was living, the life that I was existing in at that time. I became very close to becoming homeless. I just went straight down the toilet in every aspect of my life. And sometimes when you get yourself in that state, it drags you down emotionally, right? And I can think, this income tax return, if it doesn't work out the way I want, if I can't find those deductions that I need to make it so that I have a decent income tax return, that it's going to be the end of the world, right? And it's not. And I don't feel that way. And at the same time, I'm not writing off the possibility that I've possibly made a mistake in my calculations. But, this is the way life goes, right? This is the way life goes. And sometimes we can make these obstacles in our goals and our plans the end of it, right? It could stop us in our track and just say, "Oh my goodness, I've had enough for this. I've had enough of striving for my dreams. Oh my goodness, you've only been at it a half an hour and you're all ready to quit. And I have no idea. I couldn't even count on my two hands how close I came to quitting on my brand, and my brand here, Prairie Dodgers. It doesn't look anything like what I thought it would be, right? Where I'm sitting right now, it wasn't part of the big plan in my mind, but in all actuality, didn't really have a plan, right? I was moving along and I was being creative and I was having fun with what I was doing, but I wasn't really taking into consideration how I was going to get it all done. I was just going to get it all done. That adapt and conquer, that never give up, all those lessons, right? And it was specifically all those lessons that made it so, well, even though it looks different, Prairie Dodgers is still here, right? I've been on these platforms for 10 years now. This fall, it's going to be 10 years. And, it was not in the plan for me being a YouTube. It was something I kind of walked into. I was living my life, right? I was having fun. I wanted to be on Big Brother Canada. That was the plan. That was the goal, right? And it seems kind of silly when you think about it, but it always does in the beginning, right? It's very hard for me to go back into some of that old content of mine and look at how I was presenting myself to my audience, right? But even though it was difficult, I never allowed myself to give up, right? I just kept going, just in those that back of my mind, just one more step, just one more step. You can do one more step, and you think, oh my goodness, right? Like, I have no money for gas to get on the road. I don't know. Just keep going, find a way. And something would always, because I was always moving towards it. And even though I didn't know what the end game goal was, I always had that goal, right? I need the gas. And somehow it would manifest. I need to get on the road. I need to make a YouTube video, right? But then at the same time, having all these experiences, right, that kind of put me on a track where I could actually see the possibilities of a goal. Okay. The possibilities, even though I was in my late 50s, because in that time I was getting these lessons of it was never too late, right? Right? Colonel Sanders started in his 70s. If Colonel Sanders could do it, Cindy can do it because she's only in her 50s. I'm 62 now, and I still have that very same attitude as when I did in my 50s, right? And that's what I need. That's the only thing I need, right? Is to believe that it's never too late, that it's right. And what it is, I have evolved, I have pivoted, I have changed. But I also knew that I was maturing. And as you mature, you're not as mobile. I wasn't going to be bushwhacking in my 80s. It's going to be amazing to think that I could, right? And I may, but you have to prepare, right? Because there are wrenches that get thrown into our lives. And even though I feel like I'm 20 now, right? We never know in the future, right? We can set those goals, but we have to understand that wrench can and will be thrown into our lives, and we can find ourselves, right? Again. adapting and conquering and struggling and overcoming and cheerleading ourselves that you can do it, never give up. And it's just a struggle and a push, and right. And it just sometimes, like I said, it can be discouraging, right? And we can give up. And even though that it's been 10 years now, I don't feel that need or that want to even try to give up, because this has been kind of built into my life, right? And it was unintentional, but maybe it was intentional, but not by my intent. It was part of that redirection to get me onto that, right, to that main branch of the tree, so I could have a better eye on, it's not the prize, right? It's the direction of the movement, the direction of the answers, right? And so I moved along with that. And the goals are not the end game goals, but they are the small goals in the direction that's going to give me a clearer picture of the bigger goal, right? And that bigger goal might not even be in my lifetime. Might be lifetimes after lifetimes, and Cindy's not coming back, but I do believe there are parts of me, right? That will, and I think any bit of effort that I put in, any little bit of goal setting, right? When I say goal setting, it could just be the simplest choice. Like I said, that's enough, Cindy. You're getting yourself confused, right? Because you're just determined to find these deductions so you can have a refund, right? You're going to take a fresh look at it tomorrow. And if it still works out the same way, that's your income tax return, right? And be proud that you are now contributing, paying taxes, and not being the recipient of a refund, right? Because you got to look at that as a good sign. Right? It's a painful good sign, but I'm going to look at it like it's a good sign because I've never had to pay income tax before, except on, right, that retail stuff. Every year of my life that I've been applying for my income tax, every year I have always got a refund. It's not going to have to pay out lots. It's right, just barely over $100, but it's still a payout. So I'm going to look at that. I'm even laughing at it. I'm even laughing at, because I did wrap plans around that. My expectations of getting that refund and getting that dental work done. But that's why I set those goals for that refund, because, right, that's the big chunk that I get every year that I can make a little bit of movement, right? A little bit bigger movement than, right, that struggle in accomplishing the things that you need. And like I said, right, this is, it's going to work out one way or another, right? I'm going to get that dental work. It's going to come to me a little bit differently, but it's still, right? And I'm not even going to notice, right? That it got done differently than what I had planned, right? And is it in the end of the world? Truly not. I'm still showing up here every single day, right? My teeth aren't gonna fall. My teeth aren't gonna fall out, and it's a good lesson for me in how I can handle small disappointments, because that's just a small one, right? There are bigger things in this world to worry about. And, you don't cry over spilt milk, right? So, in our choices, right, You can choose to beat yourself up. You can choose to call it quits and, right, throw a fit and just like that Monopoly game and just take the whole game and throw it up into the air, right? But what good is that going to do anybody except to make it even more frustrating because now there's a mess to clean up, right? And then we can go into our emotions and just make ourselves depressed and walk around and just make everybody else around us depressed because we're all cranky and miserable, right? Right? And you never know in that movement, right? What is going to click. Maybe there is a new deduction that I didn't think of, right? That will possibly um, sort things out. But if I beat myself up and if I keep myself in that state of woisy me or oh darn or right, or even right? Like I said, that I was going to look at this as a good thing because it means that I'm, right, standing on my own 2 feet now. Like I'm standing on my own 2 feet for the first time in my entire life, right? I've always thought that I was super independent. But then again, you know, when you have a pack standing behind you, it's pretty easy to pull up a little bit of confidence, right? And, but when you pull yourself away and you have only you to rely on, right? To figure out the taxes or to figure out anything and putting the roof over your head, putting clothes on yourself, making sure that you're on time for like it was so much and it made me really take a look, right? I always thought that I was somebody that could be relied upon and I was, but I couldn't rely on myself for myself. Now does that I don't know if that makes any sense because right sometimes we don't take care of ourselves the way we take care of others, right? And I can appreciate that I am no different than anybody else, and you can tell the beginning of my life she was in the box and she's in her game. There was no need for her to do that. She's just doing that to get her treats to let me know that she's around, right? I'm just gonna sit there. She'll probably meow at me in a moment or so. I went and made a special trip to the store today because I bought her a bag of cat food because her brand wasn't on the shelf. She wouldn't eat it. It was such an expensive bag of cat food, too, and she wouldn't even touch it. So today I went out and I just went back to her favorite kind of cat food. I found it, went through the trouble. I couldn't find it. And then I went back to the store and I decided just to buy the bigger box and spent my coffee money for the week to make sure that my cat was taken care of. Again, not part of the plan, wasn't part of the goals, right? But we take care of the things that get thrown in our paths because it can turn into a great big huge mess, right? And if we can pick up along the way, if we can take care of those small things that come into the path of the road, right? And it's only again in our choices, and it can be a part of the goal, couldn't it? Right? It makes reaching that goal so much easier, right? And less of an effort when you're not crawling all over that stuff that just keeps rolling in, but we're not dealing with it in the moment, right? Or we're getting ourselves so frustrated, right? Like again, we're throwing that Monopoly game up in the air, and that's all that's right. And again, we have to crawl all over that because again, right, we always end up feeling guilty about these things, these little emotional fits that we have, right? And that's all that I'm having tonight with that income tax. And I should have known better to so late in the evening when I was already starting to wind down to say, right? Because the idea was for me, because I do set goals for myself, right? I set my goals for my days off, and one of those goals was to get my income tax return done. So it was getting later in the day, and I says, "Okay, Cindy, if you want to get those goals done, you better get hacking away." And I got hacking away, and I got disappointed, right, in not being low income anymore. I could just laugh at myself. It's a great thing. I'm just going to look at it as a great thing, right? And maybe they'll even make me even in a higher wage bracket next year, right? Let's just hope that I can put a little bit of money away in the anticipation of the taxes I'm going to have to pay. You guys, that was a jibber jabber kind of live tonight, but I came into my life with that kind of mindset, and it is a moment that we can have, and it's not in the disappointment of what we don't accomplish, because it's not that. It's in the recognition of the things that trip us up, so that the next time that we come in and we hack away at it, well, we already did the trip back there. So we're moving forward again now, right? We figured that one out. That's just the way I'm going to look at it. You guys, I'm just going to leave it at that tonight. You guys, have a great night. We'll see each other tomorrow. Bye. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Cindy.